Good afternoon. My name is Sumit Gupta. I work for Sun Microsystems, and I'm here to talk about common multi-protocol SCSI target, which in-house we call it COMSTAR. It's a new project. It's basically around exporting Solaris as a storage platform. You can develop your storage applications on it, and this particular project will basically do the SCSI portion of a storage platform, making Solaris a SCSI target. And it's multi-protocol, so it can actually handle fiber channel SAS, iSCSI, anything which can transport SCSI commands. It's there on Open Solaris. There's a slide where I will talk about the website link. So it's there on Open Solaris. All the design documents are there, and hopefully in next month or so, we'll probably have some initial draft of the source code, which will be there on Open Solaris as well. So before we go into a target mode design, let's look at a little bit on the initiator side. And the reason I added this slide is because I wanted to show analogy between a target mode design and an initiator mode design. So this is SCSI, which is very well known. I think it was designed around 1991. So what this has is, at the very bottom, it has different protocol modules. And if you ignore MPXIO for a second, it has a common SCSI layer, which is called SCSI. And then it has modules which deal with the SCSI device types, like disk, tape, and medium changer, and closure, SD, ST. So that's the analogy which the SCSI COMSTAR is also going to drive, is basically there are protocol modules, there's a SCSI layer, and then there are modules we call LUN providers, which will export the functionality of a SCSI LUN. So a little bit about benefits of doing a Solaris SCSI target. I thought about this, and obviously there are many benefits of having a generic SCSI target platform, but there are some unique things I wanted to bring out. So we do have the initiator mode stack, which we just looked at, and that's open sourced. And now we have a target mode stack, which we are working on, which will also be open sourced. So having both initiator and target open source, it helps to create customers end-to-end solutions. So other thing is, it actually allows to utilize Solaris as a storage development platform. And the benefit of that is first of all, it's scalability. And that ties a little bit with the third bullet, because you have so much variety of platform support. There are platforms which are single processor, and then there are platforms which are hundreds of processors. So Solaris scales very well across all these platforms, and having a target mode platform which can either be a single CPU or multi-CPU unit helps. DDI compliance basically means that you don't have to rewrite things for every new release. Once you write code which is compliant with Solaris driver-driver interface, it actually works across different operating systems, different Solaris versions. And of course, Solaris has rich APIs, not only to do storage, but to do other stuff. So this is a very high-level view of what COMSTAR looks like. And you can see all the modules are inside the kernel, except the management stuff, which is outside, which is out in the user land. So broadly speaking, there are three layers in COMSTAR. The bottom layer we call port providers. The top layer we call LU providers, or logical unit providers. And in the middle is the SCSI target mode framework. So port providers are essentially modules, and they don't have to be drivers. It can be anything. It can be part of a file system. It can be a disk module. So anything which exports a port. The definition of a port is something which can implement the functionality of SCSI transport. So something which can take SCSI commands and send them out on the wire. The interface for the port provider is actually defined in SAM. So this is basically a SAM-compliant port provider. The logical unit provider is basically, again, a module. Doesn't have to be a driver, anything which exports logical units. So it essentially implements the functionality of a logical unit without having to worry about what the logical unit, how the logical unit is going to be exposed to the world. Both port providers and logical unit providers can export multiple entities, which means the port provider can export n number of ports, and the logical unit provider can export n number of logical units. And as we see, we will see in future in the next slides that we'll talk a little bit more about LU provider interface and port provider interface. And then, of course, if to manage such a broad system, each provider is going to have their own management interfaces, but there are some common things which we have abstracted out, and that's available as a library, libstmf, and of course there will be a CLI on top of the library.